Take a slow breath. Let it rise. Let it fall. Here, in this moment, may the atmosphere around you soften into stillness. May the mind quiet like a lamp just after flame. May the heart steady like incense reaching upward. May the body open like bread broken with reverence. Spirit of truth, Spirit of peace, meet us here, not at the surface, but at the center. Not in our rehearsed selves, but in the part of us still tender enough to be changed. We are ready to step not just into the Holy of Holies, but to live from it. You are not alone in this. I walk beside you as one who is learning too. Learning how to let the spirit world not be a moment of visitation, but the foundation of every interaction. This is not a teaching of escape, nor a bypassing of wounds, nor a spiritualized dismissal of real relational struggles. This is a teaching of alignment, learning how to relate from spirit instead of from fear, ego, or survival. So as you listen, let your breath slow, let your heart unclench, let spirit show you how close holiness has always been. In the ancient tabernacle, nothing busy happened in the Holy of Holies. There were no tasks, no rituals, no movements, only presence, only communion, only the merging of human breath with divine being. This is the inner experience of the Holy of Holies. Your ego softens, your spirit awakens, your truth rises, your wounds loosen, your perceptions clear, your love becomes clean. This is not an emotional peak, it is a spiritual realignment. Here, you are not striving to be good, you are remembering that you are already whole. You are not begging for clarity, you are becoming clarity. You are not protecting your heart. You are returning to spirit and letting spirit guard the heart for you. Inside the Holy of Holies, your identity shifts. You stop being the self who reacts and become the self who responds. You stop being the self who seeks validation and become the self who stands in truth. You stop being the self shaped by wounds and become the self shaped by spirit. This shift changes relationships at their core because you no longer bring fear into connection. You bring presence, you bring truth, you bring the atmosphere of spirit. Before we move deeper into the teaching, there's one more piece of the tabernacle pattern we need to honor because it shapes how we think about relationship, intimacy, and access. In the ancient design, only the high priest entered the Holy of Holies, and only once a year. Not because spirit was distant, but because the space was sacred. The high priest symbolizes the one who enters rightly, reverently, responsibly. They don't rush into the holy, they prepare for it. They cleanse themselves, they examine their motives, they carry the weight of another person's heart with humility. They come not to take, not to fix, not to control, but to restore. And in relationships, this image becomes a mirror. Not everyone is meant to enter the deepest places of your heart. Some people want access without preparation. Some want closeness without responsibility. Some want intimacy without understanding the weight of your spirit. But the Holy of Holies within you requires more than desire. It requires capacity. Only those who can honor your sacredness should be allowed close. And here's the deeper truth. Before anyone else can enter those intimate chambers, you must become the high priest of your own heart. You learn to enter with clarity. You learn to approach yourself with reverence. You learn to tend your inner sanctuary before inviting anyone else inside. Because in the tabernacle and in your life, access is sacred and closeness is not casual. This is the foundation we need before stepping into any deeper connection in life. Because the pattern of the tabernacle isn't just sacred history, it's a mirror. Every day, without realizing it, we cross thresholds in our relationships, walking into hard conversation, showing up vulnerable with someone we love, opening our hearts after being hurt, reconnecting after conflict. Every time we speak honestly, reconcile with someone, set a boundary, or let ourselves be seen, we are stepping into sacred space. And whether we're aware of it or not, these are holy of holy moments. And just like the ancient priest, how we enter matters. Whether we enter with clarity or confusion, with forgiveness or hidden offense, with truth or with pretense, shapes what happens on the other side. So, with this understanding, we can now talk honestly about what happens when we cross these thresholds without the preparation our hearts really need. In the ancient story, the high priest did not enter the Holy of Holies casually. The preparation wasn't symbolic, it was survival. Because stepping into concentrated presence while carrying unresolved offense, hidden motives, or unexamined truth was overwhelming. Not punished, overpowered. The Holy of Holies is pure coherence. Truth, intention, alignment, and spirit all resonating as one. Anything that is fragmented, anything avoided, anything pretending cannot hold that resonance. It collapses under it. This is why the priests prepared for days, not to earn God's presence, but to stabilize their own. And the ancient tradition gives us a striking detail. They tied a rope around the priest's ankle before he entered, not to restrain him, but to rescue him if he fell and could not return. See, no one else was permitted to enter that depth of holiness. If he collapsed, the Levites had to pull him out from a distance. Beloved, this is not just ancient myth, it is spiritual psychology. It is emotional reality. It is relational truth. Because today, people still collapse when they cross relational thresholds unprepared. When someone walks into a hard conversation carrying bitterness, when they approach intimacy with unhealed wounds still bleeding, when they attempt reconciliation while hiding the truth, when they come near you with shame instead of honesty. Something inside buckles. The spirit collapses under the weight of what the heart was not ready to carry. And here is the part we rarely name. Someone will have to pull them back out. And it is always the Levites, the ones nearby, the ones who love them, the ones who have access to their life. Every time a person collapses in relational holiness, someone else absorbs the impact. A partner, a child, a friend, a community. The rope is real. It is the emotional labor others must do to drag someone out of a moment they weren't spiritually prepared to enter. And this is why preparation matters, why the inner courts matter, why honesty, clarity, forgiveness, and self-awareness matter. Because entering sacred connection without preparation brings confusion into a place meant for clarity, projection into a place meant for truth, and unhealed wounds into a place meant for presence. Unready hearts don't carry or create connection. They collapse, and someone else pays the cost. This is spiritual insight. Sacred connection requires sacred readiness. When we tend our inner courts, we steady the mind, clean our motives, acknowledge our wounds, and become honest with ourselves. We step into the Holy of Holies of relationship with the integrity required to hold it. And this brings us to the deepest question of the Holy of Holies. If preparation is what stabilizes us, what actually meets us on the other side of that veil? When we step into the sacred center of connection, when our motives are clean, our truth is honest, our wounds acknowledged, and our spirit steady, what exactly do we encounter there? Because the Holy of Holies is not an empty room. It is not a void. It is not silence for silence sake. At the center of that space stood the Ark of the Covenant, the spiritual heart of the entire tabernacle. And just as the Ark revealed the center of Israel's relationship with God, it reveals the center of our relationships today. Let's step toward it together. Inside the Holy of Holies stood one object, the Ark. Not a box, a center, a throne, a reminder. Inside it were three sacred items, each one a symbol, a teaching, a map for what we must carry into our relationships when we enter them from spirit rather than fear, ego, or hunger. Let's open them one by one. The tablets were a symbol of divine truth. What they were physically, two stone tablets engraved with the Ten Commandments, the expression of divine truth, order, and alignment. These tablets were the foundation of Israel's covenant with God, a reminder that relationship is held together by truth, clarity, and mutual honor. What they mean for us: Spirit invites truth that clarifies, never truth that crushes. Because truth in the Holy of Holies is not the same as truth in the outer courts. There, truth can be used to win, or to shame, or to defend, or to justify. But once you pass the veil, truth is not used as a weapon. It is truth made clean, not manipulative, not defensive, not strategic, not inflated, not sharpened into something to win with, just truth. truth that steadies, truth that aligns, truth that frees. This kind of truth sounds different. It is spoken gently, held humbly, received with clarity. It doesn't hide, but it doesn't wound. It creates connection because it honors the soul of the one receiving it. Relationships rooted in spirit do not fear truth, they depend on it. Without truth, we have performance. With truth, we have intimacy. Manna was a symbol of daily provision. What it was physically, a jar filled with manna, the mysterious bread that appeared in the wilderness to feed Israel day by day. It was the reminder that God nourishes, sustains, and meets their need without them having to grasp or demand. What it means for us: you do not enter relationships starving, you enter fed. You do not demand another person fill your emptiness, you bring your own fullness. Spirit becomes your source, your grounding, your nourishment, your emotional center. When you are spiritually fed, connection becomes a gift, not a survival need, not a dependency. This changes everything. You stop requiring others to fix your wounds. You stop placing the weight of your self-worth in their hands. You stop making them carry emotional needs that only spirit can meet. Two people who are nourished within create relationships that breathe freely, not relationships that suffocate under need. Aaron's rod that budded was a symbol of miraculous life. It represented life where there was death. What it was physically: Aaron's staff, a dead piece of wood that miraculously sprouted blossoms as a sign of divine choosing and living authority. It was proof that spirit brings life where life looks impossible. What this means for us: this is resurrection energy, renewal, repair, reconciliation, transformation, but without force. Because resurrection never comes through pressure. You cannot push someone into softening. You cannot force healing. You cannot argue a pattern into blooming again. Spirit brings life where ego sees only endings. This symbol tells a truth many of us need. Dead patterns can bloom again. Hardened hearts can soften. Stuck conversations can open. Old wounds can finally release. Relationships can become new without pretending the past didn't happen. Not by pressure, but by presence. Not by fear, but by spirit. This is the mystery at the center of every sacred relationship. Life emerges in places that looked finished. Tenderness returns to hardened ground. Growth appears where logic predicted none, because spirit grows what ego cannot. And this brings us to the heart of it. If the ark is the center, and the Holy of Holies is the atmosphere, and the priest's preparation is the doorway, then the question becomes, how do we actually relate from this place? How do we bring the energy of the Holy of Holies into the way we speak, the way we listen, the way we repair, the way we love? Because at some point, every sacred teaching must cross the bridge from symbolism to daily life. At some point, the Holy of Holies has to walk with you into your living room, into your marriage, into your friendships, and into your community. This next part is that bridge. This is what it looks like to relate from spirit instead of ego. When we relate from ego, relationships feel heavy, tangled, and confusing. When we relate from spirit, relationships become clear, grounded, and steady. Here is the shift. Ego asks, "What do I need from you?" Spirit asks, "What is true between us?" Ego begins with lack, with grasping, needing, expecting. Spirit begins with reality, with what is instead of what we wish it could be. Spirit does not manipulate truth to keep someone close or push someone away. Spirit simply sees clearly. Ego says, "You hurt me. I must protect myself." Spirit says, "Let's bring this wound into the light. Let's talk about it." Ego reacts. Spirit reveals. Spirit is not naive. It does not excuse harm or bypass pain. But spirit knows that what remains hidden cannot heal. Spirit invites the wound into the light so clarity can rise and true safety can be restored. Ego demands control. Ego tries to predict, manage, and shape the outcome. It clings. Spirit allows clarity. Spirit trusts alignment. Spirit knows that what is true will remain and what is false will fall away. Clarity becomes the boundary that protects your peace. Ego tries to win the argument, win the story, win the position of the wounded one. Spirit tries to reconcile what can be reconciled and release what cannot. Spirit doesn't fight for victory. Spirit fights for truth. Spirit doesn't cling to people who refuse to meet the moment honestly. Spirit neither forces connection nor fears separation. Spirit stays aligned with the truth at hand and lets that truth guide the next step. Relating from spirit does not remove boundaries, it perfects them. Ego uses boundaries as barriers, walls to hide behind. Spirit uses boundaries as clarity, honest lines that protect what is sacred within you. Spirit will never ask you to stay in a place that betrays your truth, your dignity, or your peace. But Spirit will ask you to see others clearly, not as enemies, not as projections, not as saviors, not as replacements for divine source within you, just as souls, learning, hurting, trying, awakening. And when two souls enter this space together, forgiveness becomes natural because nothing is hiding. Honesty becomes safe because the heart is steady. Love becomes spacious because the ego is not gripping. Connections become holy because spirit within each person recognizes spirit in the other. This is what we mean when we say relating from spirit. It's not mystical. It's not complicated. It's not philosophical. It's simply this. A relationship becomes holy when both people bring their true selves and let spirit lead the connection. And so, beloved, as we take this final step out of the inner courts, we arrive at the true moment of integration, the moment where teachings must become embodiment, because everything we explored today only becomes real when it reaches your own relationships, your own heart, your own thresholds. Before we close, I want to invite you into a few sacred questions, not to answer quickly, but to hold gently in the quiet. Where in your life are you being invited to enter a relationship with more preparation? What truth have you been carrying that needs to be spoken cleanly, without weaponry, without fear? Where have you been asking someone to fill a need that truly belongs to spirit? What wound is ready to be brought into the inner courts so it no longer collapses your connection? And what relationships, past or present, are inviting you to enter with a steadier heart, a clearer mind, a more grounded presence? Let these questions linger. Let them open a quiet doorway inside you. Let them bring you home to your center. Because every time you pause to listen, you are already moving toward the Holy of Holies within. And now, beloved one, you have not just entered the Holy of Holies today, you have learned how to dwell there. The spiritual realm is not far away. It is a breath away. And from this place, may your truth be clean. May your boundaries be blessed. May your connections be guided. May your heart be guarded by spirit, not fear. May you speak from spirit, listen from spirit, and choose from spirit. May your love be holy. May your relationships be honest. May your presence be healing. And may you remember, every time you pause, every time you breathe, every time you center yourself in spirit, you are already standing in the Holy of Holies, and you are safe there. Take one final breath and let spirit lead.